By now, y'all might have probably heard that Diddy's daughters literally broke down in court after one major bombshell reveal. But that is not the whole story. Trust me when I tell you it is worse than anybody expected. So while it is true that the girls literally walked out during Cassie's emotional, shocking, and graphic testimony, the truth is that it was also in that exact moment when actions started speaking louder than words. The moment was so raw, one of his daughters was visibly shaking and the other looked completely broken. But it wasn't just them, the entire courtroom was in chaos. People walked out crying, reporters froze mid-sentence, even some security had to look away. Because what Cassie shared about Diddy wasn't just wild, it was deeply disturbing, heartbreaking, and completely out of this world. And just when everyone thought it couldn't get any worse, Cassie mentioned something that had the whole room silent. She brought up the infamous baby oil, which, if you can remember, was already controversial enough. Lo and behold, we didn't even know half of it. Not at all. The way that Diddy allegedly used it is beyond creepy, beyond gross. It's the kind of thing that makes your stomach turn. We'll get into exactly what that means in a second, but let's just say it's worse than anyone imagined. Make no mistake, Diddy's trial isn't a celebrity confession. This was a full-on reckoning. A moment where the glam and the glitz of Hollywood shatters, and behind it is nothing but trauma, secrets, and pain. So, if you've been keeping up with Diddy's recent scandals, lawsuits, and backlash, buckle up because this part of the story, this is where it all hits the fan. Without any further ado, let's break this down gently.
I was in the courtroom as Cassie was testifying, so let me tell you guys everything that you didn't see or may have not heard, because it's a lot. I will say the most damning part of her testimony for me is when she describes a freak-off where Diddy and another man, an escort, are standing on top of her while she is laying on the floor high off of and they are urinating on her face to the point where she is choking on their pee.
For starters, the courtroom was already tense from the start, but the energy shifted the moment testimony began. Opening statements were barely out of the way when everything took a left turn. A man named Daniel Phillip, a known male escort, took to the stand and exposed something so wild, many thought that they misheard. According to Daniel, Diddy didn't just cheat. He orchestrated it all, controlled everything, and on so many occasions, he would just sit in his dark little corner, silent but fully present, while watching this man he would pay thousands sleep with Cassie. Cassie also details that he would join them sometimes, and if you're already grossed out, we have barely scratched the barrel. Daniel even said Diddy would require him to perform certain acts on Cassie, degrading, humiliating things that brought some members of the court to literal tears, like pee on her face so that sometimes she couldn't breathe. It was so bad that the judge had to cut the mic, strike it from the record, and give the court a short recess. It was that graphic and traumatizing.
After a freak-off, there would be blood, urine, and lots of baby oil.
And it gets even more confusing. Daniel claimed that Cassie herself would also sometimes request him to perform some of these very disturbing acts, but he said he didn't believe it was actually her choice. According to him, it felt very rehearsed, like maybe she was told to say that, or maybe she was coached, manipulated, gaslit before the sessions, which could be the case because the testimonies are super detailed. Like, Diddy thought everything through as though he was directing a music video. He'd be super detailed, like sometimes he'd ask to apply 2 whole bottles of oil on himself or Cassie, but other times he'd say only half a bottle was enough. Details. And that's when the most heartbreaking moment happened. Diddy's 3 daughters, all just barely 18, were sitting in the courtroom. They were visibly upset. One girl clutched her jacket like she was about to cry, and another had her hand over her mouth like she was holding back a scream. The third just stared down at the floor, frozen and probably embarrassed, before finally getting up. Why they were allowed to sit through a testimony like this is a question the internet is still asking. Because as soon as those graphic details started spilling out, the girls stood up and walked out. Not once, but twice. Meaning at some point they might have gone back, but it only went downhill. Some users are saying having them there was both irresponsible and bad parenting, saying it was traumatizing for them to witness their dad's alleged actions in such graphic detail. Others were worried about their mental health, especially after leaving the room multiple times when things got heavy. Not gonna lie, I think they shouldn't have been there. I mean, it's good that they know who Diddy was outside of being their father, but no child should be put through such a compromising position.
No videos were shown today. Instead, jurors were handed personal screens so that they could privately see images taken from what Cassie called Freakoff videos. Cassie had a binder on the stand with her, and she was going through images identifying people in them.
Now, that's just one escort's testimonial, and yet you'd still be shocked to learn that that's nothing compared to what came out of Cassie's mouth when she took the stand. If you've made it this far, here is a second trigger warning, because once we open the door to what Cassie said under oath, there is no unhearing it.
And to further give context, on the right-hand side of the court seated is her husband, Alex Fine. On the left-hand side, Diddy's 6 out of 7 kids. We're sitting in the courtroom as Cassie is describing having weekly freak-offs for years.
Did you know that the judge had to cut short some of the triggering stuff, especially about Diddy's oils? But just how bad were the testimonies that the court literally had to cut things short? Let me put it like this. It was the kind of testimony that drags your soul into a dark, cold place that you didn't even know existed. So let's rewind to day 1 and really walk through what happened. The federal sex trial of Sean Diddy Combs officially kicked off in Manhattan under the tightest lockdown imaginable. Armed security everywhere, cell phones confiscated, and cameras strictly forbidden. Reporters were scratching for any details, camping outside like it was a war zone, trying to piece together what was being said inside those 4 walls. And then came the date, May 13th, 2025, when the silence broke. That was the day Cassandra Cassie Ventura walked into the courtroom. But she didn't just walk in, she showed up visibly pregnant, glowing, full-bellied, and calm in a way that shook people to their core. People said she didn't even flinch under the paparazzi's flashes. Her appearance alone was a message. Also, keep this in mind, Cassie was the only witness brave enough to testify under her real name. That's how much strength it took to face Diddy head on, to look him dead in the eye and show him she is not scared anymore. She's free. When she took the stand, the room fell into a dead hush. No shuffling papers, no whispers, no movement. Just a woman, years after escaping hell, finally ready to speak her truth, with the whole world watching. And when she started talking, it was nothing short of devastating. Cassie didn't just speak, she unloaded. She laid out full plots of what her life looked like under Diddy's alleged control. It wasn't just abuse, Diddy ran her life like he owned it. According to her, he isolated her, separated her from loved ones, and kept her under a kind of emotional captivity where she said she had no voice and no life of her own. She said the Freakoffs weren't rumors, they were real. Much like the first witness, Daniel Phillip, had said, Cassie claimed Diddy forced her into those dark rooms, made her engage in disturbing acts with other people while he just sat there and watched. Sometimes alone, sometimes filming, but always in control. Cassie said he orchestrated those events like rituals, and every time she protested, her resistance was met with violence. She recounted hotel beatings where she says he smashed her head against walls. He allegedly broke phones to stop her from calling for help. She even claimed he controlled her music career, deciding what she could sing, who she could work with, and when she could release tracks. It was like she was under his personal surveillance 24/7. Cassie also said the Freakoffs were super frequent, like weekly, and would last for hours on hours. And the longest lasted 4 days. 4.
As Cassie is describing having weekly freak-offs for years that would last 2, 3, one lasted up to 4 days. She talked about damaging hotel rooms so bad in one instance that they had to pay such a hefty fee because the hotel told them that they needed to completely redecorate the room after a freak-off.
And if that wasn't enough, they played footage. The court rolled never-before-seen surveillance videos, including the now infamous 2016 hotel hallway tape CNN leaked. the one where Diddy is seen dragging, shoving, and striking Cassie. But according to insiders inside the courtroom, that clip was nothing compared to the new footage shown that day, which was so violent and explicit, you could tell where this case was going, judging by the jury's body language. Cassie herself broke down on the stand as it played. The prosecution let the footage speak louder than any words, and it landed like a punch to the gut. Diddy just sat there probably wondering why he ever recorded those tapes, because the entire time he thought he would use them to control Cassie and other celebrities. Unbeknownst to him, he made evidence against himself. And that's how you know nature has such a sense of humor.
Cassie was listing the names of the male escorts, and in some of the images, she said it was herself with baby oil on her, and reporters say that one female juror rested her hand over her chest. Also say that a male juror quickly averted his eyes, and another wrote notes while clearly shaken.
But of course, Diddy's legal team wasn't just sitting back in silence. The defense came in swinging, trying to flip the whole narrative. According to them, this wasn't some twisted tale of power and control, it was just a messy breakup. They painted it like a love triangle gone sour, saying the real story was about jealousy, cheating, and money, not trafficking, not abuse, not coercion, just relationship drama, as if that could explain away the years of manipulation and chilling evidence. They even went as far as questioning why Cassie still had these explicit tapes. Like, instead of focusing on what Diddy allegedly did, they were more interested in why she kept the receipts. Some say that tactic was to make her look shady, like she was plotting or holding on to ammo, but people in court weren't buying it. The energy shifted real quick, and the jury could feel the tension. This wasn't just about why she saved them, it was about why they existed in the first place. But when I tell you Cassie came prepared, would you believe she answered every single question no matter how damning it was? For instance, when the prosecution asked her why she never left, she admitted that having met Diddy when she was super young, she didn't know better. Remember, she was barely out of teenhood, while Diddy was a whole 37-year-old man, back when his name was still Puffy. It was that long ago. Of course, naturally, she was naive and super impressionable, so working with Diddy to her, as would any of us, felt like she was on top of the world. And when he started making moves on her, Cassie gave in. Remember, there was already a power imbalance here. I mean, saying no to Diddy would have meant the end of her career. Cassie, in fact, admitted to having genuinely loved him, and that's what she felt. And she even went further to say she grew super jealous when Diddy would flirt or give other ladies too much attention. So when Diddy approached her about the Freakoffs, she just wanted to do anything to make him happy to have chosen her. And even when he started hitting her, at first she convinced herself that if she only acted right, he would stop. But it didn't just stop, and things got worse. So for those who are still insensitive enough to ask why Cassie stayed, listen to this.
For those who like to stupidly comment, well, why didn't she leave? She said she didn't have the resources and she didn't feel safe to do so. In her own words, I understood Sean's capabilities, his access to guns, and the threats that he made prior to that. Later, Diddy not only threatened to have her Freakoff tapes released, but that he would harm not only her, but also Kid Cudi, which I'm sure you know he's very capable of doing so. Cassie said he told her that he wouldn't be harming her and Kid Cudi with his own hands, and it would happen when he was out of the country.
Probably by now the defense regretted why they asked her why she never left. Then came another twist that made headlines. Her husband, Alex Fine, was spotted in the building. Yep, her man pulled up, standing tall in full support. But there's a plot twist, because at some point he was escorted outside. And as soon as the court started referencing the 2018 essay allegations, the judge asked him to leave, saying he might be called as a witness later. That moment said a lot, though. Even though he couldn't stay, his presence sent a message. Cassie wasn't walking into that courtroom alone. But don't get it twisted, this was just day one, and things were already moving like a full-blown docu-series. Every single moment had people clenching their chests. Cassie's expected to be on the stand for 3 straight days, and if this first day is anything to go by, it's only gonna get messier, deeper, and harder to hear. Watching trauma unfolding is quite something. Interestingly, there's a bunch of attendees who believe Diddy is likely to walk free out of this or get a much lighter sentence than many anticipate. Their logic is that so far the prosecution don't have enough to prosecute him over RICO charges. So far it sounds like it's all about the villain in an abusive relationship and nothing more.
Who came to watch the case were walking out. I hate to say it, we were getting bored in there with Cassie's testimony. I think everybody thought it was going to be explosive. This is a RICO case. They're trying to show appicking, if you know what I mean. And I hate to say it, but the government is doing a terrible job at showing it. Now, they are showing, yes, domestic violence. They keep asking her, show it these freak-offs. Who selected your outfits? Who Diddy? But they're not showing, okay, this escort was taken, traveled here for this. And it's not showing multiple people involved. All you're seeing the government prove is that Diddy committed domestic violence, but that is a state case. That is not need a federal trial. So I hate to say it, guys. We know we don't want this. But I think Diddy could get off on the RICO charges.
Oh, and by the way, Diddy's mom was in court as well. Mother was in attendance, holding her silence tight. Then there was Nisa Hylton, one of his baby mamas, showing up with a walker, visibly emotional. She looked like she had seen too much. TMZ tried to get a word, but she kept her lips sealed. Oh yes, and Jaguar Wright also made an appearance. Y'all already know when she shows up, something big is brewing. So when you've got family members, former flames, and internet fire starters all under one roof, yeah, that room is choked in tension. Loves, this kind of story is the one that makes you stop scrolling and hold your breath. And the fact that his own children may have seen pieces of it and even felt the ripple effects of what was happening behind closed doors, that changes everything. What do you think about everything that's coming out? Do you think those girls were ever supposed to be in court in the first place, or were they dragged into something way darker than they ever signed up for? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this story is shaking things up. And please don't go anywhere, because if day one gave us this much, imagine what's coming next.